Good morning, everyone. I'm Gadi Weiner. I'm the team data manager. I've been managing the team data for the last almost 7 years, since the beginning of team, and before that I was managing the BEST data. And quite a few of you may know me because whenever you have technical issues with SDE-related data, I'm the person to contact. So let's get started about talking about the entry dates. The entry dates have two main things that I want to touch on that have to do with how payments are processed. The first thing is when you have a teacher who is brand new and started this year, they may have an entry date that is September 1st or February 15th. There's only 2 entry dates per year, and those are the dates. There's a cutoff date, which is October 31st. Anyone who appears in the SDE data after that date is assigned a February 15th entry date. The second cutoff date in the year is the February 14th. Anyone who appears in the SDE data after that date gets assigned the September 1st of the following year. So those are the only 2 options that you're going to see an entry date. It's either the 9/1 or the 2/15. Now, if you have a teacher who started at the beginning of the year, and assuming that the mentor has provided sufficient mentoring during the year, the maximum amount that can get paid to the mentor is $500. Anyone who has a beginning teacher with a February 15th entry date can be paid up to $250. Again, assuming that there has been sufficient mentoring. The reason is that we provide mentoring based on the amount of time that is spent with the mentee. It is not connected to the number of modules that have been completed. The second issue about entry dates is the fact that we almost never change entry dates. And we have our internal reason why we do that, and it has to do with tracking when a beginning teacher met certain criteria as to when they became eligible for the beginning teacher status. Very rarely do we change that date. What we do on a regular basis is update the deadline date. So if anyone has any reason that they couldn't complete team within the 3 years for the 5 module teachers since they started, we're accommodating, and we will grant them additional time that will be tacked on to the end. So, as I said, very rarely you're going to see changes to entry dates, but the deadline dates do change, and we're very flexible about that, assuming that there is a reason to extend the teacher's deadline. The one last thing is the last bullet I want to talk about is the fact that the data that is used for team relies on whatever HR puts into EDS, which is the educator data system. That's the way we track assignments and teachers. So if HR hasn't put a teacher into the system, we don't know about them, and that may be the reason why they're not listed on your monitoring list. Another issue could be in regards to compliance. If a teacher's assignment is incorrect, they will be listed as out of compliance, and again, they won't be listed in team properly. And next slide. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the inactive. This is a feature that was added in the current version of the system, and it indicates if a teacher is no longer listed as team required. Now, a teacher can become inactive for a number of reasons. For example, if a teacher was in team last year and now, as a result of a typo because of HR, the teacher is listed as out of compliance, they would become inactive. If a teacher completed team, their status becomes inactive because they are no longer an active beginning teacher. What you will see is that inactive teachers may still be listed on the payment report if they are team completers. if they're not team completers, they may be missing from the payment report, and that's when you need to contact us so we can find the reason why their status became inactive. And yes, that's the last bullet.
Okay, so let's talk for a moment about your dashboard and some of the tools that are available for you. You will find underneath your beginning teachers, mentoring matches. That list is extremely important for you to verify the accuracy. So when you go into your dashboard, you want to be sure that all of the teachers that you know who should be participating in team have created their user accounts and that you have been able to match them with a mentor. Any teacher who has not been matched with a mentor will not be eligible for a payment for the mentor in this payments report. So it's extremely important that all of those mentors be assigned appropriately so that you will be able to ensure that they're in the payments report. Today is the day that the payments report opens, so you will be able to see your entire payments report. So the first thing that you're going to do is check on your list of beginning teachers, identify whether or not you have teachers that are missing from your payments report, and then identify that all of your teachers who are in there are matched up to the mentor that was assigned to them. If they've not been matched, then you want to make sure that you do assign the mentor, and you also want to be sure that you have each of the mentors and beginning teachers with a user account that's been created. If you find teachers that are not in the system, that are missing, or that the mentor matches for whatever reason have not been able to be made, please contact us. Gotti would be the person that you want to get in touch with. Gotti, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I believe that covers everything.
Okay, great. So once you verify that the teacher and the mentor have user accounts, you can then go ahead and create those matches, which I'm sure most of you have already been doing this throughout the year. We're just reminding you that if you have anyone who has not been matched up at this point, it's especially districts that are much larger districts, you want to go through your list and just make sure that everybody has those mentors. If a teacher came in after February 15th, actually, Gotti, I'm going to let you speak to this, the entry date and whether or not they'll be in the payments report.
Okay. The teachers who will appear for the first time in this year's payment report are teachers that have a September 1st, 2016 or a February 15th, 2017. Teachers that have been entered past the second cutoff date that I mentioned, anyone who has been entered on February 15th and later will have the September 1, 2017 date, so they're not going to be listed on the report. They have access to the system, but they're not required to actively participate in the program yet. So even though some of them may have created accounts, they're not eligible for a payment this year.
So in some instances, we do get questions about why teachers are not showing up in the payment report, which is why that entry date is so critical. So if they have a September 1, 2017 entry date, you will not see them in your payments report. As you know, as the district facilitator, probably one of your biggest jobs is monitoring the mentoring hours. We just want to remind everybody that there is an expectation of approximately 10 hours per module over the course of the 2 years for approximately 50 hours of mentorship. We are asking you to be really vigilant in taking a look at the mentor logs and make sure that there is close to that number of hours. Mentors are responsible for entering the hours in their meeting logs. This is a really important time for you to perhaps reach out to each of those mentors to make sure that they are indeed have their logs up to date, that they've been entering it, and that their beginning teachers are signing off saying that they agree that those hours have been met. I think it's extremely important that you contact the mentors if you're seeing a log that is not been entered, there's nothing there. Certainly it's an opportunity for you to check in on the relationship between the mentor and the beginning teacher to see if there's an issue and something that perhaps you may be able to assist with. If nothing else, it could be an oversight on the part of the mentor who hasn't had the opportunity yet to enter the hours. I had a few calls over the years where mentors come back in the fall and they've received 0 stipend for mentorship that they provided the previous year. And when they call me and say, oh, I didn't get my check, I didn't get my money, when we refer them back to the district facilitator, because at that point it's not something that we can do anything about here, and the district facilitators will frequently say, well, there were no hours logged. I just want to caution you, make sure you're checking in with the mentors, reminding them to log those hours so that they know if they have not logged hours and they have not logged sufficient hours that they are not going to receive a stipend. So we know that there's 2 purposes of looking at those logs. The first one is what I just said, ensuring that those activities are actually occurring. Keeping in mind that the activities in the log can be a balance between things that are helping to induct the teacher into the profession and the issues around working through the team program. All of the hours don't have to be specifically on completing modules, but the hours should be around helping to induct our beginning teachers into the profession. And then obviously we talked about the amount of time, and that time is going to help you determine whether or not the mentor is entitled to a full, partial, or perhaps no stipend. So on your dashboard under beginning teachers, you'll see monitoring. This is the information where you're going to determine whether or not teachers and mentors have been meeting for the specified amount of time and whether or not there's appropriate mentorship being provided. So when you open up your monitoring tools, you'll see that there's a summary of the progress that's been made. I don't know about you, but I love the new visual that we have. I think it's so much easier to really get a picture of how teachers and mentors have been working together. In this particular case, we can see that this teacher has already completed 4 modules and is working on the final one. You also will see the meeting log information on the right side of your screen here. This is really critical because this is what you're going to be looking at. So you'll notice that this current year, and that's the place that you want to focus on, in this current year, since September, this teacher and mentor have met for a total of 12 hours and 18 minutes. You'll see that there's a total number of hours over the course of the 2 years the teacher has been engaged in team of 33 hours and 18 minutes. You're going to focus for this current payment report on what the current hours are that they've met together. So the amount of the stipend available is determined by the beginning teacher's entry date, and I think Gotti has said this before. So teachers who have that September 1 entry date will have $500 available, and the expectation is there's approximately 20 hours. If a teacher has a February 15th entry date, this is only a half a year, so a $250 stipend is available for the mentorship of the teacher, and we're talking about approximately 10 hours. So mentor stipends need to be based on the time that's actually logged in the meeting logs and are never, ever based on the completion of modules. And that's a really important point that we want to make. Sometimes you may see modules are completed and the number of hours are extremely low, and you may be, have a tendency to want to approve the full mentor stipend because those modules have been completed. But the stipends are provided for the time that the mentor actually spends with the beginning teacher. So the completion of modules does not necessarily warrant a full stipend if the mentor meeting log is below that time. So let's take a look at a few examples. In this particular case, we notice that the current mentoring hours are 12 hours and 18 minutes. You'll also notice the teacher has completed 4 modules and is in the process of completing the last module. Based on the progress we can make a pretty good prediction that this teacher is well on the way to completing team, and it looks as though the mentorship hours have been consistent over the time, because we see the 33 hours from the previous year. And so we probably would want to go ahead and approve the $500 stipend. It would be appropriate because we can make a reasonable prediction that this teacher and mentor will continue to meet and will meet the number of hours for that stipend. I have a few people that might have joined recently. If you could just put your phones on mute, we are picking up quite a bit of background noise. It would be helpful. Thank you. Okay, so let's look at another example. This particular teacher has had no mentorship since the beginning of the year. Nothing is logged. Now, that could be a few reasons. It may be that the mentor has not entered those hours yet. In this case, I would want to reach out to that mentor to be sure that I remind the mentor to enter the hours in order to receive the stipend. Or I would want to have the conversation with the mentor and the beginning teacher to determine if there is perhaps a problem with the mentor and the beginning teacher relationship. We do see that the mentor recorded 1 hour and 45 minutes since the beginning time that the teacher started in team. That was not a great deal of mentorship. And we do see that there are 2 modules that have been completed, although the number of hours logged really don't line up with the number of modules. So therefore, in this particular case, after a conversation with the mentor and the beginning teacher, I would be likely to approve a 0 stipend for this teacher, this mentor. Let's look at one other example. We have 15 minutes of mentorship that was provided since the beginning of the year, and we have 2 modules that have been completed. There were 20 hours logged since the beginning of the time working on team. However, currently, the 15 minutes is well below the number of hours that we're looking for. Again, I would check in with the mentor to make sure that the hours had been entered appropriately, check to see if there's something going on with the teacher and the mentor, and if I determine that it's just that the mentorship has not been provided, I would approve $0 again. At this point, are there any questions? Okay. So when you log into your dashboard, I think we have Michael on the line, so I'm going to turn this over to Michael Mahoney right now, and he's going to pick up and talk to you about the actual payments report.
Good morning. Sorry I was late, Claudine.
That's okay.
The payments report will become active after this webinar is over. When you look on your District Facilitator dashboard, you go down to the Mentors section where it says Payments Report. Do I have control over this? No. Okay. And you click Payments Report, it will open up to the 2017 Payments Report. Next slide. There are 3 steps. The first is to confirm that the list of beginning teachers and mentors, the ones that you've been checking for the last 2 weeks, is complete. And after you've checked that list, at the bottom of that page, next slide, there is a question for you to answer. Do you confirm that the list is accurate, or do you not confirm? Do you not accept the list? If you do not accept the list, put the check mark in Do Not Accept and click Submit. Next slide. And you will be given the opportunity to enter the details that you are questioning, whether there's beginning teachers missing or mentors missing or whatever it is. When you submit this form, this will go as an email to the State Department of Education, and one of the staff, most likely Gotti, will respond to you. At that point, just wait for a response to see how this is resolved. Next slide. If you are accepting the list. You would check that you're accepting. You click submit. It challenges you to make sure that you really mean that, and then ask you to confirm again. Next slide. In step 2, you will see a list of your beginning teachers and their mentors. And all the way on the right-hand side, like we did last year, there is a column for requesting funds. The log summary is made visible so that the first line of the log summary is the number of hours that are in the log since September 1st, 2016. The second line is the number of hours that are in the log for the total time that the beginning teacher has been receiving mentorship. And the third line is the date of the last log entry. Not the date that the entry was made, but the date that the meeting was labeled. The maximum amount of money for a beginning teacher mentor match is $1,000 if that teacher is working on 5 modules, and $500 if that teacher is working on 2 modules. If there have been previous payments, that's listed in the next column. So in the right-hand column for Jason and Samantha, your choice as the district facilitator is to request $0, $250, or $500, based on the fact that there has been about 11 hours so far, and we are now into the spring, and you have checked with the mentor, this may or may not deserve a full $500 stipend if, in your judgment, the mentor will not have provided about 20 hours of support for the beginning teacher this year. If there's a problem for this teacher, and the teacher is going to need additional time next fall, our recommendation is select the $250 so that there is money to reimburse you for a mentor stipend next year. The next example, Autumn and Joanna, although there are 11 hours and 30 minutes this year, this is the first year of involvement, and I'm confident as the district facilitator that they are on track and they will meet the 20 hours, so I'm requesting $500. The last example, Drew and Sandra, there are 10 hours this year, and there's no money left. So the system already checked for you that there's a choice of $0 to reimburse the district for any mentor stipend. The district has received the $1,000 previously. Next slide. As you go through the check marks, the line will change color to indicate that you have checked it, and when and as you check, the total at the bottom of the report will be adjusted. And once you have checked all of the beginning teacher mentor matches, making a choice of 0, 250, or 500, depending on what's available, the confirm and continue button will become active. So when you click that, so if you cannot click that, it means that you need to go back and look at the report, look for a yellow background in the payment request, and respond to that one. So next slide. Once you confirm, we will be asking you for mailing instructions. The check will be made out in the name of your district. So it'll be made out to the district of Bridgeport Public Schools, for instance. We suggest that you have the check mailed to you as the district facilitator so that you know when that check comes in, and then at that point you print out the list of beginning teachers and mentors and the amounts for each mentor, bring both the check and that printed report to whomever it is who has the responsibility to put those dollars into the mentor's paychecks. So when you're done with that, you click Confirm and Submit. In the past, checks have gotten lost, particularly in a large district, although they did get lost in one small district once, but the check is printed, and although there's a large space for, it looks like, the memo line on a check, there's a large space. All that I can get put on that is Team 2017 mentor stipends. And if that check arrives at the finance department without explanation, it might be set aside or deposited in general funds, and that slows things down for all the mentors. Okay. I think that's it. Oh, you're going backwards.
There we go. You have to talk about this.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you have had 2 mentors working with the same teacher this year, only the current mentor's name will appear. And it is going to be your responsibility to say, oh, well, this was split between these 2 mentors. If you have received a teacher mid-year and that teacher worked in another district and there was a mentor in that other district, you will need to contact me, and I will need to make manual corrections to the data for both your district and the previous district, because this is going to be most important. If a teacher left your district, that teacher is not going to appear on your beginning teacher list. If you have received a teacher, it's going to appear that you're getting the option to give the mentor more than the half year that may be appropriate. So let me know, because this does require a manual change. There's no way for us to track the change of district in our system. All right. Okay. And your homework is due by the end of the day when that bell rings 3 o'clock on April 7th. I want Claudine to say this.
You want me to say this? Okay.
Yeah, you don't get any money if you don't give us a report.
That's right. If we don't get the report and we don't have verifications, we have no way of knowing what the stipend should be. So consequently, we will not be able to issue any stipend at all. So we're just reminding you to carefully review that report before you confirm and submit it. And please note that you will not be able to request any stipends for anyone who's not included in your payment report once the payment report has been finalized. We, at the State Department, distribute the money to EastCon. EastCon is the agency that we use to distribute the stipends. Once they submit that finalized report to us and we know how much money to give to them, that's it. Our fiscal year ends on June 15th, and we are not able to access any more funds after that date. So it's extremely important that you have accurately determined who is entitled to the stipends, and you've recorded them and requested them in that payment report. Otherwise, if it is after that June 15th date, we just don't have any way to go back and get that money. Important that you also know that once the payments have been processed, we can't change anything. One other thing that we need to make sure that the districts are including the stipend in a person's total earnings for the purposes of retirement. We've had a few districts in the past that did not issue the stipends at the end of the current school year, and that raised concerns with the union and obviously with the mentors. So again, I think it's a really good idea that Michael suggests that those stipends be that check be sent to you, the mentor. I'm sorry, I apologize. You, the district facilitator, so that you could actually walk that over to your business department to be sure that the check doesn't get misplaced or lost somewhere, and we can ensure that the mentors are getting their stipends at the right time. Michael, normal waiting time?
Well, it takes about a week to rationalize everything in our system, looking for errors that may have occurred, and then I literally walk the total report into our finance department, who then puts someone specially to work on that. It may take a week or two to actually get all the checks printed, stuffed into envelopes, and put into the mail. When they are put into the mail, I send a message to all district facilitators, essentially the check's in the mail.
Okay. So that really is the conclusion. So let me just summarize what we said this morning. The first thing that's critical is that you review and verify all beginning teachers and mentors are accurate and that they're matched appropriately. Next, you want to be sure that you take a look at those meeting logs and make sure that there's a minimum amount of hours logged that would require the amount of stipend that you are going to approve. Be sure that you're selecting the payment amount for each mentor based on that monitoring. Confirm your mailing information. Review that report carefully before submitting it and confirming, because we are not going to be able to change it once you do. And make sure that your district is, in fact, issuing the issuing the stipends, and it's included in their total earnings for the purposes of retirement. And then once the check does come from EastCon, again, extremely important those stipends get sent to the mentors within a timely fashion. Any questions? All right, I thank you for joining us this morning. Certainly, as always, if you have any questions at all, please contact Michael Mahoney or Gotti Weiner for the technical pieces, and you can always contact me as well. I'm always here to answer questions. So I thank you, and if you have any questions, please stay on the line, and we'd be happy to answer them.